Hi everybody, my name is James Kelling and I'm a junior studying forestry, fisheries, and wildlife in Ohio State School of Environment and Natural Resources. And today I'm going to be sharing a bit with you about my summer internship experience with the U.S. Forest Service in Rapid River, Michigan. So as I mentioned before, I was working with the U.S. Forest Service in Rapid River, Michigan. And my experience coming home and, telling people about my summer has usually had them, really just asking, well, what did you do? And what national park were you on? So first thing, the Forest Service does not manage national parks. They manage national forest land, and they cover everything from timber to wildlife to recreational uses. And within the Forest Service, there are individual departments of people who are responsible for those types of things. But particularly, I was working with timber, and the timber end of things is a lot of planning and writing prescriptions and collecting data that eventually all goes into marking trees, knowing which trees to paint for an upcoming tree sale. I was able and fortunate enough to be able to hear about the job that I got through networking. Just from connections I had, way back in my elementary school days, families we were connected to, I was able to reach out to someone we knew, who I knew was employed by the Forest Service, and just have them give me some information about upcoming application deadlines and stuff like that, as well as some tips and tricks on how to navigate USA jobs, which kind of is a good segue into the next part of this video. USA jobs and applying to work for the Forest Service. It can be a little bit hectic, especially your first time. They do really ask for a lot of documents that have to be formatted certain ways, and it is a bit tedious to go through and feel like you're entering in the same information over and over. But just with whatever their employment and onboarding processes are, it is really important to them to see that you were able to get through the USA jobs processes easily, because from my perspective, it really seems like that is a way for them to narrow down applicants, even if there is only one or two small things wrong with your application submission or your resume or something. One of the documents they needed was formatted incorrectly or something like that. So I would say, if you are interested in the Forest Service, the two highest things I would recommend are networking, get in contact with people who have solid permanent connections somewhere with the Forest Service, who can give you some kind of information about upcoming job deadlines and stuff like that. I'm sure you can find the same information on the Forest Service website. And the second thing I would recommend is look at USA jobs on a weekly or twice or three times a week basis, because a lot of times what I saw was I would see jobs that looked interesting to apply for and kind of put it on the back burner, and then I'd go back a day or two later and the job posting would be gone. And getting into USA jobs is really a good way for you to familiarize yourself with that platform. And the more and more you submit job applications, the easier it becomes to get familiar with the format they require. And I think that really, really increases your chances of getting a job. So definitely check out USA jobs and look at the job postings as soon as you can. And start applying as soon as you can too. For a job that I started working in early May of 2020, I applied for in October of 2019. So it certainly was a long process, but absolutely worth it. So my day-to-day as a member of the timber sale prep team on the west zone of the Hiawatha National Forest was pretty much the same every day, I guess. That is why they call it a day-to-day. But for me, it was going out and looking at different prescriptions for different timber sale units, and then cutting to meet those prescriptions of what the remaining landscape should look like. And the people who write those prescriptions don't really, we don't communicate with them as much, so sometimes there's people that I've never met, and I'm just having to follow their objectives and trust in whatever they have written down that that truly is best for that piece of land and the management goals associated with it. And throughout this process of the whole summer, going out and marking timber to either be cut or timber to leave day to day presented me with the opportunity to get better at a good handful of skills. One of which is measuring trees with the areliscope, and for those of you who are unfamiliar with areliscope, it's just a small device about this big that you put it right up to your eye and you measure tree heights with it. And it was interesting to get used to, but I definitely got a lot better at that, which is a pretty significant part of the job and will be significant as I return next summer and continue on my path with the Forest Service on the Pathways program. Some other skills and accomplishments that I feel I made over the course of the summer, aside from measuring with the areliscope, one was definitely tree ID skills. So way up there in the UP, they have different trees. And it's a lot more conifers than I'm used to than there is here in Ohio. So getting a good grasp on how to identify those and what kinds of habitats, those other trees in the UP inhabit was really good for me to know. Again, that ties in to continuing my career with the Forest Service, especially as I plan to go back to Rapid River next summer. And another thing that I think I really improved on was people skills. So this was the first time, me moving up to Rapid River was the first time that I had been completely alone without any roommates or really close direct connections to family or friends. So it was really on me every day to make a name for myself and to show people that I was a good hard worker and worth having around, especially on a crew, doing what they do, physical labor, 10 hours a day. And I think that having that mentality was something that really enabled me to socialize with and get to know my coworkers better, because once they see that you're a valuable member of the team, I felt like they tended to open up to me a little bit more and want to be friends and stuff like that once they saw what I was able to contribute, even just as a young college student. So that was certainly a major benefit of this summer, was improving my people skills as well. So lastly, I just really quickly wanted to share a bit about what it was like to work during the COVID-19 pandemic. The Forest Service had rules and regulations set forth so that we could work in the field safely without having to be concerned about the spread of the virus. So that was really nice. Someone doing what I do would be pretty miserable all day if I had to sit in an office when I had applied to the job, was thinking I was going to be working outside on the forest land all day. So I'm really thankful they had procedures like that in place. So, come next year, if the COVID-19 pandemic is still happening, I would say there are good chances of being able to find a field position. But it might be more difficult. I don't know what their hiring forecast is looking like for this summer, especially if COVID is still lingering. And that just ties back into get onto USA Jobs as soon as you can to start applying. I think that's about it, everybody. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to what my summer experience was, and I look forward to hearing about what everybody else's summer experiences were. Thank you for your time, everyone.